Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, Sonali Gupta, on the season 2 of Go Beyond Sports, Sportingly Yours with me, Sonali Gupta. Today with us is Anthony James Grant, who's an English football coach and former elite player. He has played in the U21, which is the under 21 team of England, the Everton football of the Premier League, Manchester City in 2000, and various other football clubs. After retiring from active playing in 2008, Grant coached at a variety of clubs, including Blackburn Rovers under 18, where he also brought in new ideas to the club with the emphasis on player development. They won Academy Elite League. They were finalists in the FA Youth Club and also the Premier League Cup, a feat which is unrivaled in English academy system to date. He returned to Everton as a first-team European scout in October 2016. He was also named Blackpool's assistant manager in March 2019, and most recently as assistant coach of the SC East Bengal in the Indian Super League. Tony, thank you. It is not only a pleasure, but it is an honor.
It's the pleasure's all mine, Sonali. So I'm really looking forward to speaking to you.
Thank you so much. Tony, this is the question which I ask everyone to begin with. Why did you choose sports? And then how did you get into football as a sport of your choice?
So in our country, football it's what most people speak about every minute of every day, especially in certain areas. And the area I came from, which is Liverpool, has two huge clubs. One's Everton and one's Liverpool. So growing up, every person in my area where I live is football crazy. It's football crazy. So there was only one thing I was ever going to do, was play football. And then I was passionate about the game. I loved the game. My journey started from as soon as I could kick a ball, but I started playing competitive football from probably the age of 10. And I joined Everton when I was 16 from school, and that was it. That was the start of the career.
Wow. I would like to actually ask you this question. Because of your love for football and your passion for it, if you had to pitch football to anyone, what would you say?
If I had to pitch football to people, it's a tough question actually, because it has so many emotions to it that you can capture. So many emotions, but taking away all them emotions of elevation, it's a simpler way of keeping fit, funny enough, because you can keep fit and run without actually thinking you're running. It's sort of disguised fitness, because you have a ball and you have outdoor space in lots of times. So to pitch it to youngsters would be, even if they don't like football, it would be a way of keeping them fit, active. Yeah. It's a multi changing direction consistently. So you're using all the parts of your body. So it becomes a fitness tool. And obviously, if you want to pitch it to people who want to be footballers, there's so much more to talk about there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. So talking about fitness and talking about the aspect of physical fitness in football, also in any other sport, how aware were you with the concept of physical literacy in your early days as a player? And then what are your opinions now as a coach yourself, and the importance of it in everyday life?
Yeah, well, I remember being 8 and 9 years old, and I remember creating my own obstacle courses where I had to jump, I had to dive, I had to change direction quickly. And I personally believe, and I used to do this quite often in the back garden, so in a small area. And then I introduced the ball to make it a little bit harder. So I actually, without really knowing when I was young, I actually believed that them obstacle courses gave me the ability, extra ability, when it came to an actual game of football. And then alongside that, we done a lot of athletics. So, and we done cricket, and we done, so when we were younger, we actually touched on a lot of sports to finalise what pathway you're going to go down. And a lot of kids didn't become footballers, but they would join in, and it become more of a collaboration and more of a team ethic. So now we're older now and we speak about it. When we look back, there was so much more to gain than just fitness, because you become friends with people. So it's powerful. Sport's the most powerfulest thing in the world. It is the most powerfulest thing. And there is a lot of things. To do sports doesn't mean you have to be the athlete. As I just said, there's so much mental side to it that can really benefit every single person at any age.
Yes. Wow. So continuing with this mental aspect of the sport, injuries are a part of most players' journey in any sport. So has it been with you? Injuries have always been constant, and yet you have delivered results even after each of your injuries, and so it is with so many of them. What is it that really allows and helps everyone to cope with these injuries in spite of major setbacks, perhaps in the peak of their careers, or perhaps some that just cut short their career, and yet the resilience or the mental ability to keep delivering? How do you think that comes, and where does that come from?
I think when we talk about injuries in elite level sports, especially football, we are always going to get injuries because it's played at such a frantic pace that you are. But the modern footballer now does a lot of injury prevention work, so they actually limit the chances now from back in the day. So youngsters now should be or are doing a lot of prevention and working a lot of muscles that we never used to do a long time ago. So this is where your obstacle type of work really, really plays, because this is a chance to use your multi-direction work, because you have to get your body used to changing direction really quick in football, especially at an elite level. And plus, we don't know what's going to happen in a game, so you have to think on your feet really quickly. So football prevention has and should be really important. And then the psychological aspects when you have a long-term injury. Calling on sports psychologists becomes really powerful, as they have different tools, and the tools they have are a little bit different than the modern coach. Some coaches do naturally have the tools themselves, but lots of coaches don't. It's very black and white with some coaches, and sometimes a player needs a different person to speak to. So a sports psychologist, we're lucky in the Western world. We're a little bit lucky with our youth, because they have access at elite level to most of this departments. They do have access to a sports psychologist.
Right.
No, and when things aren't going well, whether it's an injury or whether it's a performance, sometimes you need someone else to speak to who might just have some good answers or some good to direct you in the right place, which will all help you psychologically in your football or in your sport, but also in your life.
Right. So coming and continuing this conversation, how much of an advocate are you to all of the modern technology that has been coming into sport, especially in football, with everything from analysis to wearable tech to to all the kind of preventive measure, and also in the way the game is being viewed now, right from metaverse to just about everything.
Yeah, well, the world is changing. The world is changing. Kids have got access to so many more things than when I was a kid. So it's only right that we all change with the future. We all have to change, and we all have to embrace change. So the future player analysis, what a great tool analysis is for personal improvement. I mean, when I came through, we never really used analysis. None of the coaches really used it. Now it's a normal. Now in the Western world, all the young aspiring footballers have a chance now to really evaluate their performance, and that can be their technical, the tactical performance, but also the social performance as well. Now we can really see it. So when you have a visual, it opens up so many more ways of learning with a visual, because lots of us learn different ways. So that visual of your body language, if we can capture that when you're really, really young, we might be able to actually help that. There's lots of other ways, but the modern technology is going to improve, and we have to all embrace it. And the Western world will use modern technology, so now we need the rest of the world to start catching up, because there's so many children who aspire to become footballers, so we have to give them the best chance.
Absolutely. So coming and talking about the rest of the world and talking about India primarily, with the emergence of more and more league systems in different sports, India has now slowly grown from only a cricketing nation to a sporting nation. And you being associated with the ISL, what is your take on the current Indian football ecosystem?
I think you have such a diverse country. It's so big. It's so big. It's so rich in parts and so poor in parts. To make a real step in Indian football, it needs a real long-term vision. It needs a lot of people to come together. It needs the government to really come together. It needs stakeholders from certain areas of the country to come together and have a long-term vision of producing better facilities. Facilities has to be a key area. For every area of India should have access to, whether that be a 4G pitch or whether that be a concrete pitch with a cage, whatever it will be. You go to Spain, you see lots of pitches, lots of them are concrete, but they're easy to use. So facilities has to be a key, and it has to be a movement. There has to be a movement.
Right.
I'm involved in a movement now, and it's called C for Change, and that's what it needs. It needs a capital C for change in India, and we have to really start at grassroots, at the youngsters, and there has to be a long-term vision. And as we go, we need more structure in academies, or in any sport and institute. It needs more structure. We need to qualify the coaches as much as we can. And we have to collaborate. We have to collaborate with the Western world, with ideas. We all need ideas, and we should all be working together. So as we move on, and we have a long-term vision, and we improve the facilities, and we're starting to improve the coaches, and we're starting to improve the learning. Now we can start improving nutrition. Then we can introduce science. We can introduce all this. Introductions is all around the football. And then the second part we really need to do about the ecosystem is the community. It's the community. It's understanding that all these future footballers are actually role models, and it's for the next generation to look up at these role models. And as time goes on, they can all keep improving and who knows, in 10, 15, 20 years, the ecosystem might be totally changed just by pioneering people changing it. So fan engagement, we have clubs. So the club I joined, they are a very big club, and they have the potential to have 70, 80,000 fans. Okay, so that's great. But now we need to engage the club and the players. We need to become a family. So it's all together. So there's so much to do in India. There really is. And I know some clubs and in some pockets of India, they are long-term visionaries and they are putting structure in. But we need to collaborate. They need to share their ideas. And then we need the backing of the big people, of the government and of the big people in India.
Absolutely. And going by that, the government of India is taking measures to mandate physical literacy, in fact, in every school, and that the kids are allowed a certain amount of free play every day for physical training and physical activity. So how important do you think smaller steps like these would be for the development of sports in India? Or do you think that we are at this point in time where we really need to run faster than taking baby steps?
I think we've got to be respectful for culture, because I've seen different cultures. We have to be respectful, and I do believe we don't want to come with a great big wave and shock people and scare people and ask for a huge amount of finance, and people get scared, because we have to educate people, and education takes a little bit of time, okay, but small ripples is perfect. Okay, so the government opening up this idea into schools is a great initiative. Okay, and we need to educate the past children, the parents, of how important running about, changing direction, jumping high as you can, creating teams, collaborating, showing that you can work with somebody else. All this type of stuff, it's going to help you be more suitable for future employment, whether that be in sport or whether that be in an office. It's going to show that you're happy to work with different people who speak different language. This is what I've done most of my career, speak with a lot of people with different language. So it's getting to understand people. And it's also getting you fitter. It's getting you stronger. So if we're running about and we're laughing and we're joking and we're talking to our friends and we're working hard, if we create this and then maybe 12 months down the line, that 30 minutes changes to 1 hour, and all of a sudden we start changing that little ripple to a little bit stronger of a ripple, and then maybe a small wave comes. So we can start building then once we start educating and we start seeing the improvement. But again, this has to be a long term. All these establishments, such as the governments, they have to understand that these 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, this is what we want to really start with. We're still going to use the older boys and the older girls, but you'll see the improvements of this, because these ones have missed the last 10 years of it. So we have to start somewhere, and I'm really happy to say that what you've just told me, that the government are putting this in. I think it's a great movement by the government, and it shows that somebody is thinking about mental health and fitness, and let's get rid of obesity as much as we can. And can we now introduce nutrition into school? Can we help? And there's so much to do, isn't there? There's so much to do,
right.
Sonali.
Absolutely. And I think the whole periphery of the sports experts that surround every player today, they're all available just for someone to ask for that help. And there is just a lot more available. Like you very rightly mentioned earlier on, the kids today have so much help, right from tech to the kind of experts and the people, that it's only left to them to choose to actually be more and go beyond their own limitations, and perhaps for parents to be educated and understand that there is a far greater role that they can play beyond just learning a sport. So just another question here then, that you have worked as an assistant coach for both East Bengal and the Blackburn. What is the major difference that you find in both considering that both are two very diverse cultures, like we keep speaking about. But then what's also the commonality that you see in the two teams, and how do you find working for both of them?
Yeah, I think when you're trying to compare a team that I take over in India to a team who I work with in the UK, you know, fitness and strength is probably the main thing that was the difference as a football attribute. Okay, are the UK players technically better? Well, a lot of the UK players are foreign. Okay, we have players from all over Europe playing for us, so a lot of them are foreign. So some of the Indian boys are technically okay, but where they struggle, a lot of them struggled with trying to play technical at a really high pace. So if you're trying to pass the ball at walking pace, that's fine. But if I ask you to sprint and pass the same pass, now it becomes technically a problem. Okay, so physicality in the modern game is getting faster. It's getting faster. The balls are getting faster. You know, we have introduction of VAR now in the Western world, and that enables every single foul really to be seen by video. So there's less fouling in a way. So the ball and the pitches are amazing. So the ball's moving at such a pace that everything's becoming faster. So we have to become faster and stronger and more elastic, you know. So these are the aspects that we take for granted now in the UK. We expect our players at elite level to be able to recover as fast as they go forward. And the best teams have these players, okay?
Right.
So that's probably one of the main things. Repeating high intensity running, right? Okay. So the physical aspect is different. And then, you know, we took over a lot of players who were in the late 20s, early 30s, who've missed many of year of literacy, of football literacy. They've missed many year. So, you know, just the understanding of the game. So the understanding of the game and then their technical ability. And what you're noticing with the younger ones' technical abilities is much better than the older ones because they're having more years of practice. So the difference is a lot of it comes down to professionalism, opportunity. It still comes back to your facilities, your access to time with the ball, and your structure of fitness. So all the stuff that we're talking about, the ecosystem, it's really prevalent in what's going on in a lot of academies, in a lot of clubs now. And I'm sure a lot of these clubs now are trying to change this. But we need to change it even below all these clubs. We need to change it at grassroots. We need to change it in schools. And the academies from their schools, we need to change their mentality and their outlook of the game, which will eventually enable the national team to have a better group of players, because such a huge country, the national manager should have access to so many good players, so many, okay? Yeah. And we need to keep improving. So if we think the ones we've got now are good, then the next cohort behind us need to be better, and we need to keep improving, and they have to be faster and stronger, and it's all a process.
So one thing that comes to my mind with this is that while we do have the available infrastructure, perhaps maybe not as much as we should, but we do. We also do have access to the tech and to the analysis, to the data. A lot of Indian companies, private and public, they are investing their time, money, and effort into sports. How far do you think we have actually come as where we are today in terms of the league, in terms of ISL, in terms of what it has been able to do at the grassroots levels?
Yeah, so the ISL has become a really good level of football, okay? But if you actually analyse the ISL and you analyse how many goals have been scored since it's been started and how many of them have been a foreign goal, you know, I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure the percentage will be quite high, okay? Now, what we need to do is create more players of a higher level for the ISL to keep growing. So the I-League now there's more Indian players in the I-League, right? So if each club does spend time, does have long-term vision, does have better facilities, does improve their coaches, does improve science, if we keep doing this, then in 10 years' time, the ISL may have more Indian players having greater impact than the foreign players. And that's where, for me to evaluate the ISL, I think it's a good league. I think it's come a long way in a short time. I think technology such as VAR will really help the league. I think improving the quality of officials is available. We can do it. Okay, they just need education. I think all these we can win. We can win on all this. I think VAR would help the whole look of it. It would make it more attractive to the eye when we're watching it, because, you know, if you, in our country, if the referee gets a big decision wrong, he has VAR to help him. In India, they don't have that at the moment. So maybe we can help the officials ourselves. And then, as we're going on, if more clubs are taking a long-term vision, if the man at the top of the organisations of each club has the right personnel, then I'm sure in 10 years' time, rather than having 80% of the goals scored by foreigners, there might be 60%, and we can start getting more of our players higher up the leagues, and the more players from the I-League coming up. And it's all there for India, because, you know, as you just said, now there's more people putting more structure into clubs. There's more ideas out there, so it is moving. And we can't stop. We have to carry on. We have to carry on moving and challenging. But that's where I see it. That's where I see the ISL. I think it's a good league. I want to see the Indian players being the main players in the next 10 years. That's how I want to see it.
How do you plan your comeback to the ISL?
Hey, I love India. So India had a big impact on me, mainly because of the people, to be honest with you, Sonali, right? So the people I came in contact with, some of them never had the long-term vision because they had never thought about it. Not that they didn't know about it, they just never thought. So when we came to the ISL, we had ideas of creating a long-term vision, of changing the facilities, of bringing more coaches over to help the youngsters, to working with the fans, to including ourselves with the fans, and to eventually create a team. Now, obviously, the team I joined, they had a lot of there was a lot of to and throwing, and the investors left, so it all changed. But it doesn't mean the ideas should change. The long-term vision should be there, and I would never say never coming back to the ISL, because I think it can grow and grow. I think it's an exciting league, and I am interested in the Indian player improving. So I'm looking for them Indian players now. There's some now who I think are at the right age, they've been watching. They've probably had access to the technology, to watching the Western world players, to watching your Ronaldos and all these great players, which they have easy access with the phones. So you can see there's a group of youngsters in India who are really doing really well. I'm expecting them to keep improving. The challenge should be there. They need to be challenged every single day to become a better player. But then the players underneath them should be looking up to them as their role models. and they should be aspiring to get past them. So if we can collect data on all these young players now, if we can collect that data, then it gives us a platform for the future player to maybe go past their data. You know, it gives us a table where we can become faster, or you know, I can run longer than him, and he became a great player. Maybe I can become even greater. So we have to aspire to be as good as we can and as great as we can. And when I was talking about facilities, collecting data is going to become huge. It really is.
It definitely is. It definitely is. And perhaps also the need of the hour. So on that note, I'd like to ask you one last question before we take too much of your time. How would you define yourself in these various roles? As a coach, as a player, and as a visionary?
Okay, so I think as a rolled up to one, I'm quite a simple man. It's very hard to put it into words, but when I look at football, that's my passion. Football, okay. It's probably one of the only things. Football and education are probably the only two things I really get passionate about talking about. So I'd probably say I'm a guy who understands problems but finds solutions, and I think that in any aspects, whether I'm coaching, whether that's a problem with tactical or a technical, or whether that's in education, or whether that's in a social impact, I think I'm a guy who can see a problem, and then I find it in myself to find a solution to make people or instances happier. I think that's quite a simple way of putting it.
Oh, that's an absolutely incredible way of putting it. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Tony, for being a part of the show with me.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much. And please do continue to like, follow, subscribe to Go Beyond Sports and help us plug the gaps in the sports ecosystem in our season 2 on Sportingly Yours with me, Sonali Gupta. Thank you.
Thank you.